So, now that India has been independent for multiple years, how is it doing now? As clearly shown in our earlier slides, India's GDP per capita began to rapidly increase in recent years. There is an obvious J curve in the graph we demonstrated earlier and seems to be growing exponentially. Less and less Indians are living in poverty every single year, and reportedly between 2010 and 2016, 217 million people were lifted from poverty and given a better life. But recently, the development of India's economy has begun to slow down. India was one of the fastest growing economies before this, even being compared as a, quote, counterweight to China. And suddenly, India's economic growth has fallen to its slowest point in the last 6 years. Unemployment has begun to rise, and investment is falling lower and lower. This is actually the first time since 2013 that the GDP growth has fallen below 5%, as demonstrated in this graph right here. So what is causing all these issues? Well, as always, there are multiple things at play. The first argument, the one that the government officials suggest is the correct one, is that there have been worldwide ups and downs in the financial market recently, and this is actually what's causing issues, and that it's not the Indian economy responsible for all of these issues. And the UN actually came out with a statement saying that a global recession could be a very real issue in 2020. But others suggest that it is the actual Indian economy that is at fault, rather than the global financial market, stating that during the industrialization of the country, many banks gave out loans that weren't properly paid back, and to keep the economy steady, shadow banks had to step in. Shadow banks are banks that operate in a very similar way to traditional banks and ordinary banks, but they do not follow the traditional banking rules. This gave many people who formerly didn't have access to loans, credit, the opportunity to open businesses and have access to credit. But then, in 2018, a huge shadow bank called Infrastructure Leasing and Financial Services collapsed and caused massive issues to the people of India. The collapse of this shadow bank is what most people believe to be the reason for this decline, as it acted as a sort of domino effect, making it more difficult for people to buy things such as cars. Unfortunately, Indian media and government officials are not showing the exact truth, and the government is not taking the appropriate measures to educate their citizens of what is truly happening in the economy. And we can only hope that the situation will get better in future years.